Commander Kralvek stared at the glowing screen in front of him, his 6 eyes focused on the small blue and green planet, spinning slowly in the darkness of space. The third world from its yellow sun looked peaceful, almost inviting. But looks could be deceiving in the vastness of space. For 30 long years, the Theron Collective had been watching this system. Their most advanced scanning ships had swept every corner of it, looking for any sign of intelligent life. Radio waves, energy signals, spacecraft movements, anything that would tell them someone was home. But there was nothing. Complete silence. "Sir, we're getting close to the target world," reported Captain Zovhai, his scaled hands moving across his control panel. Behind them, 199 other Theron ships followed in perfect formation, their dark hulls cutting through space like silent predators. Kralvex nodded slowly. "Good. Begin the final scans. I want to make sure this place is as empty as our probes said it was." The massive screens around the command center lit up with data. Temperature readings, atmospheric composition, surface features, everything looked normal for a world that could support life. But the most important reading was the same as always. No technology, no cities, no civilization. "Perfect," Zovhai said with satisfaction. "Another garden world ready for harvesting. The High Council will be pleased. We can strip this planet clean and use it for our expanding colonies." 3,000 feet below the surface of what the aliens thought was a dead world, Commander Li Huan sat in a chair that hadn't been used in over 300 years. The underground city of New Seoul stretched out around him in all directions, its tunnels and chambers home to millions of sleeping humans. The air recycling systems hummed quietly, keeping the vast complex alive. Hydroponics gardens provided food, while fusion reactors deep in the Earth's core supplied endless power. This wasn't just a hiding place, it was a complete civilization, hidden from any eyes that might look down from the stars. Li Huan's fingers moved across controls that seemed to be made of pure light. Holographic displays showed him everything the alien ships were doing far above. Their sensors were good, but not good enough to see through the careful camouflage that humanity had built over centuries. "Park Sue," he called to the young woman at the communications station. Her family had been preparing for this moment for 10 generations, just like his had. "Send the wake-up call to the council chambers. Tell them the day we've been waiting for has finally come." Park Sue's hands trembled slightly as she activated systems that had been sleeping for longer than most civilizations had existed. "Sir, should I activate the deep protocols as well?" "Not yet," Li Huan replied, his eyes never leaving the alien ships on his display. "Let's see what they plan to do first, but have everything ready. If they so much as fire a single shot at our world, we wake up everything." 200 miles south, deep beneath the ruins of what had once been the great city of Busan, Dr. Kim Yura felt the vibrations through the metal floor of her laboratory. Massive machines that had been silent for 3 centuries were slowly coming to life, their ancient systems checking themselves and preparing for action. The Lazarus Protocol had been her grandfather's greatest creation and his deepest secret. While other humans had built the underground cities and the life support systems, he had built something else entirely, something that would make any invader regret the day they decided to attack Earth. "Computer, show me system status across." "The solar system," she commanded. The air in front of her shimmered, and suddenly she was looking at a 3-dimensional map of their entire star system. Tiny lights began blinking on, scattered across the darkness between planets. Each light represented a piece of her grandfather's master plan, hidden for centuries but now slowly awakening. "They think we're dead," she whispered to herself, watching as more and more lights came online. "They have no idea what they're walking into." Her grandfather had been a military genius, but more than that, he had been a man who understood that sometimes the best defense was to appear completely defenseless. Let the predators come close, thinking they had found easy prey. Then show them how wrong they were. The vibrations grew stronger as massive engines deep in the Earth began to turn. Across the solar system, things that had looked like asteroids and space debris for hundreds of years were starting to move. The sleeping giants of humanity were finally opening their eyes. Dr. Kim Yura smiled as she watched the alien fleet draw closer to Earth. completely unaware that they were flying into the most carefully prepared trap in galactic history. The first plasma blast hit Earth's surface just as the sun was rising over what used to be Tokyo. The bright green beam carved a smoking crater into the ground, vaporizing everything it touched. Then came another blast and another. Within minutes, the Theran fleet was raining destruction down on the planet below. Commander Kralvex watched the bombardment with satisfaction. "Standard sterilization protocol," he announced to his crew. "We'll clear the surface of any remaining life forms, then begin atmospheric processing. This world will make an excellent colony for our people." What the Theran commander didn't know was that every plasma blast was being recorded by sensors hidden deep underground. And with each attack, more of humanity's sleeping defenses were coming online. 380,000 kilometers away, on the dark side of Earth's moon, something incredible was happening. Lunar Base 7 had been silent for 3 centuries, its corridors filled with nothing but darkness and the preserved bodies of humanity's greatest military minds. But now emergency lights were flickering on, and ancient machines were humming back to life. In the deepest chamber of the base, a metal coffin hissed open. Freezing mist poured out as Admiral Choi Minho took his first breath in over 300 years. His body was still young, preserved perfectly by the cryogenic systems, but his mind carried the weight of humanity's desperate plan. The Admiral's feet touched the cold floor, and immediately he could feel it, the familiar sensation of being in command during a crisis. His training kicked in like he had only been asleep for a few hours instead of 3 centuries. "Computer, full base activation," he commanded, his voice still rough from the long sleep. Around him, more metal coffins were opening, releasing his command crew from their frozen dreams. Lieutenant Han Ji-won was the first to reach the command center, her fingers flying across control panels that hadn't been touched since the day they went to sleep. "Sir, I'm getting signals from across the solar system. The Lazarus Protocol is active. Everything is waking up." Admiral Choi Minho felt a grim smile cross his face. "Show me the tactical display. I want to see what our guests are doing to our home." The main screen lit up, showing Earth being bombarded by alien weapons. But around the edges of the display, other things were happening. Tiny dots of light were appearing throughout the solar system, growing brighter and larger with each passing second. "The asteroid field between Mars and Jupiter," Han Ji-won reported, her voice filled with amazement. "Sir, it's moving." What had looked like ordinary space rocks for hundreds of years were now revealing their true nature. Massive chunks of stone and metal were unfolding like flowers, shedding their disguises to reveal the warships hidden inside. Captain Song Mina had been dreaming of home when the wake-up call came. Her ship, the Iron Tiger, had been disguised as a simple asteroid for so long that she had almost forgotten what it felt like to be a real warship. But now, as the rocky shell fell away in chunks, she could feel her vessel stretching and expanding to its full size. The Iron Tiger wasn't just a ship, it was a predator, built for one purpose: to hunt and destroy anything that threatened Earth. Its hull was inscribed with Korean characters that told the story of humanity's promise to never again be caught defenseless. "All systems coming online, Captain," reported her engineer, Kim Soo-won. "The quantum drives are at full power, and the adaptive armor is responding perfectly." Around the Iron Tiger, thousands of other ships were going through the same transformation. What had appeared to be a simple asteroid field was actually the largest fleet of warships ever assembled by humanity. Each one had been waiting patiently for this moment, hidden among the space rocks where no enemy would think to look. "Weapons Officer Kang Do-yun," Captain Song Mina called out, "I want all quantum arrays charged and ready. These aliens picked the wrong planet to attack." "Already on it, Captain," Do-yun replied, his hands dancing across his control panel. "Sir, you should see this. The enemy fleet is still focused on Earth. They have no idea we're here." Across the solar system, the same scene was playing out hundreds of times. Ships hidden in the rings of Saturn were powering up their engines. Weapons platforms disguised as comets were turning toward the inner system. Even the space stations that looked like they had been abandoned for centuries were revealing themselves to be fully armed fortresses. Dr. Kim Yura, still in her laboratory deep beneath Earth's surface, watched it all happen on her displays. Her grandfather's plan was working perfectly. The aliens had fallen for humanity's greatest deception. They had made themselves look completely helpless while secretly building the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Phase 1 complete, she announced to the underground command centers. All hidden assets are active and moving into position. The Theran fleet is about to discover that Earth's death was greatly exaggerated. The sleeping giants of humanity were finally awake, and they were very, very angry. Commander Kralvex was feeling confident about the bombardment when his tactical officer suddenly went very pale. The alien's scaled hands were shaking as he stared at his displays. "Sir," the FIU officer whispered, "we have a problem, a very big problem." Kralvex turned to look at the main screen and felt his blood turn to ice. Where moments before there had been empty space around his fleet, now there were ships. Hundreds of them. No, thousands. They were appearing out of nowhere, as if they had been invisible until this very moment. "Contact, multiple contacts," his sensor operator shouted. "They're everywhere, sir. Above us, below us, all around us." Captain Zovhai stumbled backward, his 6 eyes wide with terror. "How is this possible? Our scans showed nothing. The planet had no technology, no civilization, no defenses." The Theran fleet, which had felt so powerful just minutes before, now looked tiny and helpless. They were completely surrounded by vessels that seemed to shimmer and shift like mirages. Some of the human ships were massive, larger than anything the Therans had ever built. Others were sleek and fast, darting between the larger vessels like hunting sharks. Far from the battle, deep in the command center of humanity's greatest warship, Admiral Park Ji-hoon was finally taking his rightful place. The Soul's Vengeance had been disguised as a dead space station for 3 centuries, floating near the outer edge of the solar system, where no one would pay attention to it. Now, as its true form was revealed, the ship stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull was covered in armor that seemed to be alive, constantly shifting and adapting. Along its sides, weapons ports were opening like the eyes of a waking giant. "Admiral," Commander Shin Nari reported from her position at the tactical station, "all ghost fleets are in position. We have the enemy completely surrounded. They have nowhere to run." Admiral Park Ji-hoon looked at the display showing the trapped alien fleet. These creatures had come to his homeworld thinking they would find easy prey. They had planned to strip Earth clean and leave it as a lifeless rock. Now they were about to learn the price of underestimating humanity. "Open a channel to all ships in the fleet," he commanded, "and make sure the aliens can hear this too." The communication system crackled to life, connecting thousands of human vessels across the solar system. Park Ji-hoon's voice carried the weight of 3 centuries of preparation and the fury of a species that had been pushed to the edge of extinction once before. "They came here to harvest a dead world," he announced, his words echoing through space. "Instead, they found sleeping dragons, and now the dragons are awake." Captain Bae Sumin smiled grimly as she heard the Admiral's words. Her ship, the Shadow Dancer, was one of humanity's most advanced stealth vessels. For the past hour, she had been watching the alien fleet through sensors they couldn't detect, studying their formations and learning their weaknesses. "All stealth frigates, this is Shadow Dancer," she transmitted to her squadron. "Time to show these invaders what real advanced technology looks like." Her ships were unlike anything else in the galaxy. They didn't just turn invisible. They could actually phase between dimensions, existing in normal space one moment and slipping into another reality the next. The aliens had never seen anything like it, because humanity had invented the technology. During their 300 years of hidden development, "Oh Tai-hyung," she called to her weapons officer, "execute pattern Delta. Let's teach these aliens about the difference between hunters and prey." The human fleet moved with a precision that seemed impossible. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship was supposed to be. They had trained for this moment for centuries, running simulations and practicing maneuvers until they could fight as a single, unified force. The aliens watched in growing panic as the human vessels began to position themselves. Some of the ships seemed to fade in and out of existence, appearing behind Theran cruisers, where they had no right to be. Others moved in ways that defied physics, turning and accelerating without any visible means of propulsion. "Sir, they're using technology we don't understand," the Theron sensor operator reported. "Some of these ships are phasing in and out of our reality. Our weapons can't lock onto them." But it was the human weapons that truly shocked the aliens. When the first human ship fired, it didn't shoot plasma or lasers like normal weapons. Instead, it fired beams of twisted space and time itself. The energy tore through the Terran shields like they were made of paper, warping the very fabric of reality around the alien ships. One Theron cruiser simply vanished, not destroyed, but erased from existence. Another found itself turned inside out, its hull folding in ways that should have been impossible. The aliens had superior numbers, but their technology was like stone tools compared to what humanity had developed during their long sleep. "All ships commence attack pattern Omega," Admiral Park Ji-hoon ordered. "Show them what 3 centuries of preparation can accomplish." The ghost fleet of humanity fell upon the alien invaders like the wrath of sleeping gods, and the real battle was just beginning. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. It wasn't the slow, grinding warfare that most species were used to. This was precision violence, executed with the skill that only came from centuries of preparation. Colonel Yoon Seo-jin sat in the cockpit of her fighter, the Soul Lightning, as she led her squadron straight into the heart of the Theron formation. Her ship was small compared to the massive alien cruisers, but it moved like a living creature, twisting and spinning through space in ways that defied everything the aliens thought they knew about flight. "Squadron leaders, follow my lead," she transmitted to the other fighter pilots. "Remember, these ships have been learning our enemy's tactics for the past 3 hours. Let the AI do what it was designed to do." Her fighter's artificial intelligence was something the Therans couldn't even imagine. It had been watching and studying every move the alien ships made, learning their patterns, understanding their weaknesses. Now, as the squadron dove toward the enemy, each fighter automatically adjusted its approach based on what the AI had discovered. The aliens tried to target the small human fighters with their defensive guns, but it was hopeless. The Soul Lightning and her sister ships moved, like they could see the future, dodging weapons fire before it was even fired. They slipped between laser beams and curved around plasma blasts, as if they were dancing rather than fighting. Behind Colonel Yoon, pilot Jang Hyok watched in amazement as his weapons did things that shouldn't have been possible. When he fired, at a Theron destroyer, the ship didn't just explode. Instead, it seemed to fold in on itself, disappearing into a tiny point of light before winking out of existence completely. "Colonel," he called over the radio, "what just happened to that ship? It didn't blow up, it just vanished." "Quantum destabilization weapons," Yoon replied calmly, even as she guided her fighter through a storm of alien weapons fire. "They don't destroy matter, they convince it that it never existed in the first place. 300 years of development has its advantages." The human fighters weren't the only ones causing chaos. The larger ships were demonstrating their own terrifying capabilities. Lieutenant Go Yeonwoo, aboard the massive battleship Busan Defender, watched his ship's main guns fire at a group of Theron cruisers. The weapons didn't shoot projectiles or energy beams. Instead, they fired concentrated gravity waves that crushed the enemy ships like tin cans. "Sir, the aliens are starting to panic," he reported to his captain. "Their formation is breaking apart. Some of them are trying to retreat." But Admiral Park Ji-hoon had anticipated this moment. The Ghost Fleet had been positioned not just to attack, but to prevent any escape. As the surviving Theron ships tried to flee, they found human vessels waiting for them in every direction. "Execute containment protocol," the Admiral ordered. "Not one alien ship leaves this system without our permission." The human fleet moved like a living creature, contracting around the panicking aliens. Ships that had been hidden throughout the solar system suddenly appeared, cutting off every possible escape route. The Therans were trapped in a sphere of human technology, with nowhere to run and no way to call for help. Commander Nam Soo-young was particularly enjoying her part in the battle. While the other ships fought with weapons and shields, her job was to wage war in the digital realm. Her team of cyber warfare specialists had been quietly infiltrating Theron computer systems since the moment the aliens had arrived. "Admiral," she reported with a satisfied smile. "Their communications are completely compromised. We've been inside their networks for hours. They can't send messages to each other, let alone call for reinforcements from their home worlds." The aliens were discovering that humanity hadn't just advanced in weapons technology. Every aspect of their military had evolved during the long centuries of hiding. Human ships could appear and disappear at will. Human weapons could rewrite the laws of physics. Human computers could take control of enemy systems without the aliens even knowing they had been invaded. What had started as a simple harvesting operation for the Therans was turning into a massacre. Their ships, which had seemed so powerful, when they arrived, were being destroyed faster than they could react. Some were crushed by artificial gravity fields. Others were torn apart by weapons that attacked them on a molecular level. A few simply ceased to exist when human quantum weapons decided they had never been built in the first place. Commander Kralvex, watching his fleet being systematically destroyed, finally understood the horrible truth. Earth hadn't been a dead world. It had been a trap, and he had led his people straight into it. "All ships, emergency retreat," he screamed into his radio. "Break through their lines. We have to warn the collective." But it was too late. Admiral Park Ji-hoon had made his decision. Only one Theran ship would be allowed to leave, a single vessel to carry the message back to alien space. The rest would serve as a warning to anyone else who might think Earth was easy prey. As the last of the alien ships fell silent, their wreckage drifting cold and dark through space, humanity's ghost fleet began to fade back into the shadows, ready to sleep once more until the next threat appeared. The silence after the battle was deafening. Where moments before space had been filled with explosions, laser fire, and the screams of dying ships, now there was only the quiet hum of human vessels and the cold drift of alien wreckage. Admiral Park Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of the Souls, Vengeance, looking at the single Theran ship that remained intact. It floated helplessly among the debris of its fleet, its weapons destroyed, its engines barely functional. This was the ship he had chosen to spare, not out of mercy, but to send a message that would echo across the galaxy. "Open a direct channel to the surviving vessel," he ordered. "Full transmission, all frequencies. I want every alien in that ship to hear this clearly." The communication array crackled to life, and Admiral Park Ji-hoon's voice carried across the void to the terrified survivors. Behind him, the massive ghost fleet was already beginning to fade back into the shadows, but their presence could still be felt like a weight pressing down on the alien ship. "Commander Kralvex," the Admiral said, his voice calm and measured. "I know you can hear me. I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because your life and the lives of your people may depend on how well you remember my words." Inside the damaged Theran ship, Commander Kralvex trembled as he listened. His crew was dead or dying around him, and his proud fleet had been reduced to floating scrap metal in less than an hour. The human's voice seemed to come from everywhere, at once filling his ship with the sound of absolute authority. "Tell your collective," Admiral Park Ji-hoon continued, "that Earth was never dead. We were simply healing, growing stronger, preparing for the day when someone like you would come, calling." Dr. Kim Yura had been transported up from her underground laboratory to witness this moment. She stood beside the Admiral, looking out at the alien ship through the bridge's massive viewports. This was her grandfather's moment of triumph. 3 centuries in the making. "For 300 years we've been waiting," she added to the transmission. "Building, learning, creating weapons and defenses that your kind can't even imagine. You thought you found a defenseless world, but you actually discovered the most dangerous trap in the galaxy." Commander Li Huan, who had coordinated humanity's awakening from the underground cities, stepped forward to add his own words to the message. "Every species that looks to the stars should know this. Silence doesn't mean death. Sometimes it means patience, and humans are very, very patient." The alien ship's communication system crackled as Commander Kralvex tried to respond. His voice was broken, filled with the terror of someone who had seen his entire understanding of the universe destroyed in a single afternoon. "How?" he whispered. "How did you hide all of this? Our scans, our probes, our intelligence networks, they all said you were extinct." Admiral Park Ji-hoon allowed himself a small smile. Because we wanted you to think that. Every signal you detected, every scan you performed, every probe you sent, we controlled what you saw. We've been watching your species for decades, learning about you, preparing for your arrival. Around the solar system, the Ghost Fleet was already returning to its hidden positions. Captain Song Mina, aboard the Iron Tiger, watched her ship's rocky camouflage begin to reform around its hull. Within hours, it would look like nothing more than another asteroid drifting through space. Weapons powered down, but all sensors remain active, she reported to her crew. We go back to sleep, but we keep one eye open, always. Thousands of other ships were doing the same thing. The massive battleships that had torn through the Theran fleet were folding themselves back into disguises. Stealth frigates were disappearing into other dimensions. Weapons platforms were once again becoming innocent-looking space stations and satellites. Dr. Kim Yura turned to Commander Li Huan as they watched the alien ship prepare to limp home. Do you think they'll try again? Maybe. Come back with a bigger fleet. Li Huan shook his head slowly. Not them. Commander Kralvex has seen what we can do. He knows that bringing more ships would just mean more wreckage, but others will hear the story. And that's exactly what we want, Admiral Park Ji-hoon added. We want every species in the galaxy to know what happened here today. We want them to understand that Earth is not a target. It's a warning. The damaged Theran ship began to move, its broken engines pushing it slowly toward the edge of the solar system. As it limped away into deep space, it carried with it the most important message in galactic history. Humanity was not extinct, and they were not defenseless. In the weeks and months that followed, the story spread like wildfire through alien civilizations. Traders whispered about it in spaceports. Military commanders discussed it in classified briefings. Scientists tried to understand how an entire planet could hide such advanced technology for so long. But the message was always the same. The third planet from Sol's yellow star was not what it appeared to be. The humans who lived there had turned their entire solar system into a trap, and any species foolish enough to threaten them would face consequences beyond imagination. The phrase became a warning passed down through generations of alien explorers. Let sleeping Terrans lie. Because sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that looks like prey until it's too late to escape. And in the darkness between the stars, humanity's ghost fleet waited patiently for the next threat to emerge, ready to defend their home with the fury of sleeping dragons awakened.